Hello, good morning. So we're going to continue on talking about the cell and the parts of all of the cell. So there's many organelles, obviously, in the cytoplasm. So most of the cell consists of a clear gel-like fluid called cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is able to fill the region between the cell membrane and the nucleus, made mostly of water and some salt. The cytoplasm holds all the cell's organelles. Constantly circulating the clear fluid of the cytoplasm carries nutrients, proteins, and organelles around the cell. The nucleus. In some cells, the nucleus is a very large oval organelle that contains the cell's genetic material in the form of DNA and controls many of the cell's activities. The nucleus is one of the largest of the cell's organelles. Remember, the nucleus is surrounded by a membrane called the nuclear envelope. Material passed into and out of the cell through the pores of the nuclear envelope. Thin strands of genetic material called chromatin fill in the nucleus. This genetic material contains the instructions for cell function. For example, chromatin helps to store individuals' information that will later make sure leaf cell grows and divide to form more leaf cells. Also in the nucleus is a dark round structure called the nucleolus. The nucleolus produces dot-like ribosomes that produce proteins. Proteins are important building blocks for many parts of the body. So remember, in here we have the nucleolus. The nucleus is all of it in general. We have the nucleolus right in the middle. It does have a nuclear envelope that surrounds the outer part, pretty much just like a cell membrane, but the nuclear envelope is pretty much a cell membrane for the nucleus itself. Then we have all of these pores. They're going to be, it's like small little entrances that it's going to allow things that are coming in and out. And we have all of these chromatin that's going to be having all of our genetic material, which is very important. And then we have our endoplasmic reticulum and our ribosomes. So you can see the structure with a maze of pathways. The endoplasmic reticulum, or the ER, is an organelle with a network of membranes that processes many substances, including proteins and lipids. Lipids or fats are an important part of cell structure. They are also store energy. Ribosomes dot some parts of the ER, while some ribosomes float in the cytoplasm. The ER and its attached ribosomes make proteins for use in the cell. So remember, this is just the endoplasmic reticulum right here. So we have all these little dots. All these little dots are going to be able to produce proteins because those are our ribosomes. So very important, it's going to be storing it's going to make the proteins we need. And it's also going to help us store energy. It has fats in it, obviously for the cell to be able to grow and reproduce. Now we have the Golgi apparatus that looks pretty similar except for the dots. As proteins leave the ER, they move to the Golgi apparatus, a structure that looks like flattened sacks of tubes. Consider the cell's warehouse. The Golgi apparatus receives proteins and other newly formed materials from the ER, packages them, and distributes them to other parts of the cell or to use outside of the cell. So the Golgi apparatus is pretty much like let's say like a FedEx or something like that, because it packages everything up. So it's going to get materials from the ER that were just made, and it's going to package them in order to distribute to them to all of the other parts of the cell, whether it's inside or out of the cell, it doesn't matter. Then we're going to move on to the mitochondria. You guys should all know what the mitochondria is. It's just the powerhouse of the cell. So floating in the cytoplasm are rod-like shaped structures. The mitochondria converts energy stored in food to energy the cell can use to live and function. They are called the powerhouse. So the mitochondria, you can think of it as like a battery. So this mitochondria, this battery structure, is going to maintain the cell alive, because it's going to produce the energy that is needed for it to function. Chloroplast, remember chloroplast is only in the plant cells. So the chloroplast is organelle in the cells of plants and some other organisms that capture energy from sunlight and change it to an energy form that cells can use in making food. The function of the chloroplast is to make food in the form of sugar for the cell. Plant cells on the leaves of plants typically contain many green chloroplasts. Animal cells do not have chloroplasts because animals eat food instead of making their own food from sunlight. So remember, chloroplast is just making food for the plants. We consume food, we eat other animals, we eat plants, so we're getting this energy through a food source. But plants don't do that. Plants have to go through photosynthesis, and for photosynthesis to occur, we have to have this chloroplast, which is that green pigment that we see on plants, because it is able to take in every light except the green one. That's why it looks green. Lysosomes. So you can think of lysosomes as a cell's recycling center. It refers to the animal cell that we see here. So notice that the small round organelles, okay? These are lysosomes. Lysosomes contain substances that break down large food particles into smaller ones. Lysosomes also break down old cell parts and release the materials so they can be used again. So I like to think about lysosomes like kind of like Lysol, because Lysol is going to break down any bacteria that are on our surface or something. So that's how I usually remember it. Just remember, lysosomes can be the cell's recycling centers, because they're going to break down things that we don't necessarily need anymore, and then we can use them in a different way. And remember, lysosomes are in both. All right, so a vacuole. Plant cells often have one or more large water-filled sacs floating in the cytoplasm along with the other organelles. In some animal cells, these sacs are much smaller. This structure is a vacuole, a sac-like organelle that stores food, water, or other materials needed by the cell. In addition, vacuoles store waste products until the wastes are removed. In some plants, vacuoles also perform the function of digestion that lysosomes perform in animal cells. So, vacuole is just going to be storing, pretty much is just a storing center. So I would think of the vacuole kind of like a garage. It's going to be storing all extra food. Let's say if a hurricane's coming, you're going to put all that extra food, water, and materials that you might need out in the garage, since it's a lot, right? So that's how I like to think of it. Just think of a garage, and they are in both. It's just that in animal cells, it is a lot smaller in comparison to a plant cell. A plant cell does need a lot of water to function, so it's going to be a lot larger in the plant cell in comparison to the animal cell. It's actually pretty small. We see right here. We have our little vacuole right here. This is the animal cell. And everything else is just pretty much taking up that space. We have just this one tiny vacuole. All right, so a unicellular organism must perform every function for the survival, growth, and reproduction of the organism. A bacterium is only one example of a unicellular organism that performs all of the functions that sustain life. When the only cell that makes up the bacterium dies, the entire organism dies. In a multicellular organism, there are many different types of cells with different functions, and they look quite different from one another. So it's very important to know that if an organism is made up of one cell, if it's a unicellular organism, it will die when that cell dies, because it's only made up of one. So these are some examples of unicellular organisms just like these. We have an amoeba, and things like that. I'm gonna say amoeba because that's the one the penicillin we know of. So they look pretty similar to this. It's just one little cell, one little organism. But we are multicellular organisms. Our cells die every day, but we don't die because we're made up of billions of cells, thousands of billions of cells. Specialized cells. So multicellular organisms are more complex than unicellular organisms. Because they are more complex, they are composed of different types of cells that perform different functions. One type of cell does one kind of job, while another type of cell is going to do another job. So for example, red blood cells are specialized to deliver oxygen to cells throughout your body. However, they would not travel through your body without the specialized cells of the heart, which send them to other cells needing oxygen. Just as specialized cells differ in function, they also differ in structure. Specialized cells from plants and animals, each type of cell has a distinct shape. For example, a nerve cell has a thin thread-like extension that reaches towards other cells. These structures help nerve cells transmit information from one part of the body to another. So if you're seeing this nerve cell right here, nerve cells are going to be all over your body to sense what is going on in their environment. And here we have red blood cells. So obviously, red blood cells, we should know that carries oxygen down to all of our organs. Anything that needs oxygen within our body is going to be pumping all that oxygen out. It's going to be collecting that carbon dioxide. It's going to be coming back to the heart and lungs and expelling that. So every cell does have a specific structure because the structure is going to determine what they can do. So if you see, these are little circles, right? So these are to be able to travel through our veins that are like tubes. So that's why we have this structure. Now these, on the other hand, we have our nerves. They're like branches. So they need to be able to connect to each other and branch out through a lot of space, because we need to be able to detect pretty much everything that's going on in our environment to keep us safe. So very important for our specialized cells. Now, a unicellular organism will not have these specialized cells. They might have these specialized organelles because they only have that one cell they need to be able to function, but they're not going to have specialized cells because these cells have to be more than one, of course. If you have this large organism. Now, think of an organism, right? Think of your cells. So we need to have a whole bunch of cells that make up a human or a animal. So a group of similar cells that work together to perform a specific function is called a tissue. For example, your stomach is made mostly of muscle cells that form muscle tissue. The muscle tissue helps your stomach churn your food for digestion. Your stomach also has glands that produces stomach acid. The glands are another type of tissue. As a whole, the stomach is an organ made up of different kinds of tissues that function together. A group of organs that work together to perform a major function make up an organ system. Your stomach is part of your digestive system, where it breaks down your food into useful substances. Your body builds up complex structures from atom to molecule to cell to tissue to organ system. So that's very important to note. Atoms, so the smallest units of anything, an atom is going to create a molecule. A molecule is just a whole bunch of different atoms clumped together and bonded. Now, those molecules are going to be able to make up the cells that we know of today. Cells are going to all come together, and they're going to form a tissue. The tissues are going to be making up the organ. So the stomach, the heart, the liver, anything like that. That's an organ. And then we're going to make an organ system. Let's say your circulatory system, your digestive system, things like that. So just make sure that you know what makes what and the steps to get there. So I'm actually going to pause here. Please make sure that you're taking very, very good notes on these. Watch the videos that I post for sure. They are very useful. They will help you a lot during the lesson checks. And have a good day.